Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. How is everybody doing tonight? We got another guest choice review, and this time it's with my friend, writer CJ or CS Johnson. How you doing?
Good. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good.
Looking forward. I tried to find my hat. I have a beanie somewhere. I tried to find it so I could wear one too, and like most things in my house, I don't know where it is.
So, as everybody knows, I said this on Facebook, but this was a choice, or CJ's choice was Josie and the Pussycats. I had to take my time watching this movie because it's a chick flick, folks. It's a chick flick that, well, this one was interesting. Rachel Lee Cook, I knew her voice from somewhere, which we'll get into. She actually does a few voice acting talents that I am aware of, and she's the main character in this movie. Well, one of the three. And I gotta say, as chick flick of a movie as this is, I got some laughs out of it. I will say I got some laughs out of it. There's some cringy stuff in this movie, but I got some laughs out of it. Let's just say that.
It doesn't count unless you suffer.
Yes, exactly. One must suffer, or it's good for the soul. So, this movie stars Rachel Lee Cook, Tara Reid, trying to go off of memory here, Alan Cumming, Dawson. Parker Posey, Rosario Dawson,
yes,
and Seth Green is in this movie. He plays part of a boy band. I can't remember any of the other actors who played that boy band because, honestly, they weren't included in the cast, which is interesting. I looked up the cast.
IMDb to take it down.
I looked up the cast on IMDb, on even Vudu, where I watch this. I watch most of my movies on Vudu because reasons, and also I looked it up on Google and everywhere. You won't find the boy band cast in this movie or for this movie anywhere. It's as if they were too ashamed to be involved in this movie. And I'm like, boy, that's gotta hurt. But Seth Green, I do know his character, or I do know his face and whatnot, and it's like, Seth Green was in this movie. Holy crap.
Well, you have to understand, so this movie came out in 2001, and that was like the year that Scrubs was really big. Okay, so like Donald Faison is like Turk, and he's the one boy band member. And then there's Brooklyn Mayer, and that's before the Garfield movies.
I remember him, yeah. I do remember him from Scrubs.
Seth Green was like Dr. Evil's son.
Yeah. So this is back.
The fact that they're like parodying this Backstreet Boy band makes me laugh.
Yes. Oh, I'm like, okay, so this movie starts out with screaming teens, and I'm like, we are off to a start in which I will be tempted to drink. Now, I don't drink alcohol, as most people know, because if they know me, I've been through shit. Let's just say that.
Serious. You don't want to tell everybody everything.
I tell them enough. I don't tell them everything.
Good.
Yeah. Hook. And it's like, well, to lend a little bit more to that, I mean, I kind of take the King Kai Team 4-star King Kai route. I don't have to tell you anything, or everything. I don't have to tell you anything, but I do.
Well, I'll agree with you. I don't drink, and
drinking, smoking.
My current addiction is Diet Dr. Pepper or Dr. Pepper Zero, depending on which one is on sale at my local store.
I've actually gotten off of soda because it's like
I need to.
I drink only 3 things: coffee, water, milk. Other than that, it's like I'm trying to get rid of this belly here. Let's just say that. And it's it started to work. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
I should have been a diabetic years ago, but for some weird reason, fate has decided not to allow me to be a diabetic yet. So we see that this band does their little musical number. Du jour, they call them. I'm like, why does this sound like something like this should be a mustard product?
I can actually tell you the reason for that because it's French and it means of the day because jour is day and then du is from the day, so it means of the day. So if you like translate it out while they're talking about the band du jour, it's actually it sets the tone for satire if you're aware of it.
Oh yeah,
pretty much right away.
And we then see Alan Cumming. This dude has so much freaking range. When he played in The Good Wife, yes, I admit fully, folks, I watched The Good Wife back when it was a show. I'm not ashamed of that. It was actually a decent show. Also, Juliana Margulies was hot. So, he also played a great character in that one. He plays just the most ridiculous character, who turns out to be even more ridiculous later on in the film. And he's basically their manager / babysitter because he has to get in between all of them. He's smacking their faces. He's telling them, you take that back. You apologize for that. You shut up. Clean up after your monkey because one of them has a freaking monkey. And it's not the traditional monkey that you actually see in most movies. It's not the one that is like Ace Ventura's Spike monkey. It's not that species of monkey. It's a totally different species.
Yeah. So like I think it's a product of its time, and this is a very coming of age sort of movie for me. And part of the reason I like it is nostalgia, which I'll talk about later. But during this time, this is during the Friends like takeover of TV, and there's that like very famous episode of Ross having a monkey. So again, it's all pretty much a callback to like late 90s, early aughts sort of stuff.
And this was 2001. When did Josie? I believe this was before 9/11.
It was. You can actually see
because this would never. Yes, it was before 9/11 because the towers were still up.
Yes.
But it's like if this was after 9/11, if this was released after 9/11, there's no chance in hell it would have ever been released. Because the very
Miss Congeniality actually Miss Congeniality was also released during this time, and it has a line in it is like maybe the guy that they're trying to get the
bomber dude,
but like there's a line in where it's like Islamic jihadis, and I'm like, this must have been before 9/11.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that they got away with before 9/11, but nowadays, oh my god, if you even think about flying a plane into a building or any sort of shit like that in a TV show or a movie, you'd get pulled. But
it's tasteless now.
Yeah, it's tasteless now. This manager is just so sick and tired of these guys. He kills him, or he tries to kill him out of spite. He goes up to the cockpit. It's like, okay, it's time to do this. They put on parachutes and set the plane on autopilot, and they jump out of the plane, and they're like, we got to get it, or du jour means get into crash position. I'm like, oh my god. Now, I have a lot of friends who would be like, did the monkey had better survive, man. They killed a monkey. I'm like, I don't know, did they? Because this is the first time I've ever seen this movie. I mean, you could get away with a lot of stuff back then that you couldn't now. I mean, Terminator 2
what would happen to this movie if they tried to remake it. So,
hey, Society Reviews, how you doing? So that's what she looks like. Yep, that's what she looks like.
Okay, just for the record, okay, I don't show my face very often, and the reason I don't is because it took me like 20 minutes to set up my computer where it doesn't look like I have, like, I don't know, a double chin or a beard or something. So, I don't want to steal all the attention from you, Society Reviews, when we talk about movies and news and stuff. Yeah. So I just hide my face.
Well, really, honestly, shouldn't hide it.
Yeah.
I think you look good. Anyway, we are then introduced to the title sequence with Josie and the Pussycats, Rachel Lee Cook. And her voice was so familiar when I was watching this movie. And I'm like, just staring at the screen going, where have I heard this voice? Where have I... Son of a bitch! And thankfully, my
Which
mom
character from Family Guy did you
wasn't
think?
from Family Guy, actually. It was from Star Wars The Old Republic.
Oh, okay.
It was the character of Jason Wilson, who was one of the more powerful characters who was a companion in the game for the Sith Juggernaut species or faction. She's a Jedi that you can either keep as a Jedi or she can actually go dark side. And she uses her natural voice, but she's also Tifa Lockhart in Final Fantasy VII Advent Children and Dirge of Cerberus, the PS2 game with Vincent. And I'm like, I don't hear that voice, but I definitely hear Jace's voice. And it's really interesting because it's like, I looked up her IMDb and I'm like, there is an awful lot of nothing here that I have seen, but I do recognize her voice. And when I saw that she did extra voices and was Jason Wilson, I'm like, holy crap, man, this is nuts. So yeah, and not to mention Rachel Lee Cook actually looks very
I think Rachel Lee Cook's most famous movie is the one she did with Freddie Prinze Jr. That She's All That one.
She's All That, yeah. I remember the end of that one where he lost a bet because I believe she wasn't a prom queen or something. So he had to do his graduation naked and ends up throwing her the ball. And she gets a good laugh out of that. I mean, yeah, folks, I saw that when I was younger. Back frickin' that movie was like 2 days old when I saw it.
Yep.
But then, so her Rosario Dawson was great in this film. Her acting was so freaking good. Me as a reviewer, I actually look at the objective standard of movies. For a movie of absolute ridiculousness, Rosario Dawson actually was quite well done in this film. Tara Reid.
Bring that up.
Yeah. Tara Reid, who plays Melody, who's the ditziest blonde. She is the definition of a blonde joke, folks, in this movie. No joke. She's doing the honk of the signs. Oh my God. What did you think of the signs scene where she's hiding half of the Pussycats behind a power pole, I believe? And I'm like, what was your thoughts on that scene?
I think it's funny. I mean, like, my first bullet point in my 3 pages of notes that I warned you about is that this is a very fun movie.
Yes.
It's very colorful. It's very, it's very fun.
Yeah. It's also very allegorical.
Well, and that's part of the reason I also like that. I mentioned that too. The kind of like the hero's journey. You can see it very easily in the film if you like break it down. Probably the only misstep that they have is at the end, and I kind of think it's funnier because of the end. So
yeah,
I'll talk about that when we get to it.
Yeah.
I think Melody is a good example of like that kind of like innocent, fluffy, not a caring world kind of character. It goes beyond dumb on some level because she does have moments where she is very observant and thoughtful. I think the bathroom scene where she's talking about Wyatt, she's like, "Did you see how like he ordered a cappuccino and then scooped out all the foam? Why not just order espresso?"
She also somehow knows Kung Fu, which is pretty interesting, which comes out later in the film. But she's holding up all these different signs. Honk if you love puppies, honk if you like horses, honk if you like, or if you love the Pussycats, except that half of Pussycats' cats was hidden behind a power pole, and this guy's stops as he's driving by and causes a pile up. And she's like, oh, and then she just runs off.
Runs away.
I'm like, oh my god.
See, I really like that because, like, as a naive, like, sheltered person, I didn't realize what that was really making fun of until I was an adult. I just thought, oh, he couldn't read the sign, so he was trying to stop and read it.
I know, right?
Like that. So for me, it's kind of like a cell phone moment too.
Yeah.
But see, that's like the innocent, beautiful. That's the beautiful innocence of like being young, kind of sheltered. So that's where it's definitely.
Her character is refreshing too because her character is actually refreshing because she does bring that innocence to that group. You got Rosario Dawson, who's the serious one.
Mm-hmm.
You got Tara, who's the playful, innocent one. And then you got Josie, who's kind of in between.
Josie's the dreamer. She's the ambition.
Yeah, she's the ambition. And Tara's the dreamer that's literally lost in space, where Valerie is the protective one, you know?
Right. She's looking out for Josie. So
yeah. This movie triggers me because I'm reminded that Sam Goody used to be a thing.
See, I don't even know who that is, so
I know the name. I'm just trying to put a face to it.
Yeah. Well,
it was a store. It was a store, yeah. Sam Goody was a store. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, folks, if this movie was made today, I guarantee you this movie would be considered woke. Because, it was a record store. Futch Norris. I'm not going to say how his name should be said, but how you doing, buddy? But
Futch Norris. Yep, nice to meet you.
It's pronounced the other way, but yeah. So where was I?
See, I actually disagree with you. I think it would not be considered woke, or at least it would not be considered woke enough.
Well, this movie, if you look at it deep down, this movie is a statement against consumerism.
Yeah, that's part of the charm.
I mean, this movie is they live in color and without aliens, and not against not political, but against consumerism. Where folks, the amount of product placement in this film, holy crap! Let's just say that.
I love it.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. This is actually I thought it was a good, or this movie was actually good to a degree.
Yeah. Oh well, one of the things like that kind of like made me realize how much I like this movie is I saw Morgan Spurlock's documentary, the greatest movie ever sold, and I knew about it because he was actually filming it where I worked at the time. So I actually got to see him do some of the clips like in live.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was really cool so I looked it up later and I like watched it and I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is really interesting. And at the same time that was going on, the 30 Rock show that Tina Fey was writing, she was talking about product placement a lot and how they had to do like synergy for their shows and how like consumers have gotten smarter, so we have to like one up them. And it was really it's kind of like a trifecta of things that have kind of like domino effect. Once you see it, you can't unsee it type of thing. So that's part of the reason I like it, is it brings out a lot of this stuff.
Right here, they got big name sponsors to mock consumerism. No joke, folks. French fry duvet. That's all I'm saying. You'll understand when we get to it. I mean, she knows, obviously.
Yeah, I know.
But oh my god. So they do this gig, and it's a nice title sequence, and you find out they're doing a musical gig in a bowling alley. And I'm like, oh, so this is going to be one of those kind of movies. It's going to be one of those stupid funny movies. And
like
honestly,
it's charming in some ways.
yeah, it is charming. They are what I call stupid funny is there's a lot of self-deprecating humor, and they really most stupid funny movies are rated R and pretty close to an NC-17, like Road Trip and what
The
was that other
Pineapple
one?
Express.
Yeah, where those movies, those kind of stupid funny movies. But this one is actually based off of a comic book, I believe so,
And
and
I
a
wanted to
cartoon.
talk about that.
Yeah. So bring it, or go ahead, bring it up.
All right, so I watched Boomerang as a kid. I loved
Mhm.
Josie and the Pussycats, but I liked the they had like they had a show where they had a cartoon show where they went into space. They were all into space, and it was just funny. And you could tell it was like it's a Hanna-Barbera property originally, so it was based kind of on Scooby-Doo. So like Alan in the comics is much more like a muscular version of Fred. Actually, I thought he was probably the only one that was really horribly miscast. Nothing against the actor. Casting
Yeah.
was like that casting director needs to be fired. And but Alexander is like this very like groovy kind of hipster, and Alexander's his sister, and she definitely has that hair in the comic and in the TV show. It's just funny. And I liked the show as a kid. And I mean, so I was like, oh, maybe I'll like this. So I actually went to see this in the theater when it came out. I didn't do that a whole lot as a kid. So what? I don't know if Josie and the Pussycats versus the Harlem Globetrotters happened directly, but they were both on the new Scooby-Doo show like that. They both met
They
Scooby-Doo.
could have been. They
So.
could have did it. Missed opportunity, definitely.
Yes, Hanna-Barbera is the original, like, ultimate crossover.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually why I started watching Josie and the Pussycats, because they were on Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, they actually do have a fourth wall break in this movie, where Alexandria's character, they're like, "Why are you here again?" Because I was in the comic books. What? Nothing.
What?
I mean, yeah. It's like what? What?
That's what you really should say next time somebody asks you, "Why were you here?" Oh, because I was in the comic book.
Exactly. Because I'm in the comic book version of this story. What? What? Scooby-Doo had a ton of guests. Oh shit! Yeah, I believe they even had Abbott and Costello.
That was part of its charm. Is like it's almost like like I really liked Pokemon when I was a kid. My kids love it too. So the generational legacy has been passed on.
The one thing I did,
they
the
always
one
have
thing
like
I
a
really
guest
hated.
person every week. So.
Yeah, the one thing I really hated about Pokemon was that Ash didn't get with Misty.
Yeah, same here. So
it's like, why didn't you get with Misty, man?
I learned about fan fiction because of that show.
Yeah, that was basically everybody's introduction to fan fiction. Let's just be completely honest. If you were in that generation, that is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know some people that didn't understand what fan fiction was until Harry Potter came around, so not quite.
Now even J.K. Rowling is actually wishing she could retcon her entire story, saying that Harry should have got together with Hermione, and it's like, well, who the hell was Ron supposed to get with, man? Come on now. Let's be honest, J.K. You wrote that perfect the first time. Don't regret it.
See, I actually was one of the few people when it came out that I was like, oh, good, Ron and Hermione are together.
Yeah.
When people got mad at me for saying that, I'm like, first of all, like, look, this is like...
It makes sense.
Well, like, Harry doesn't have, like, a family. Sorry. Okay, he doesn't. But this is kind of like him getting, like, a family history of his own, sort of, because he can watch, like, his sister/mom figure, Hermione, get with, like, his brother, like best bro, and kind of have his own take on, like, being Uncle Harry to their kids.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so it's solid. So J.K. Rowling has said obviously a lot of crap in her days.
I mean,
that's probably one of them.
She's one of the top controversial people right now, but honestly, I don't care about her controversy. I just care that she tells a good story. She told a good story with Harry Potter.
I think it's very charming and cute, and I'll read it to my
Yeah.
kids one day, probably, or my
I
husband
mean,
will.
my cousin, my first cousin, he's actually, gosh, he's 13 now, and I'm 37. He's he's late to the generation, but he's still of my generation. He actually was starting to have the books read to him, but because he was introduced to the concept of death early on in his life, as was I, when he heard that that Harry's parents died, it kind of put him off of the books.
Mm-hmm.
However, later on, he got into them, and he was able to get past that.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to Josie and the Pussycats.
we will get off topic, and
yes, we will.
Get off topic.
But so they do their gig, and
I
they
told
have
you
these.
to drink the caffeine, man.
They're empty, by the way. I drank them before we started.
Okay,
So,
well, now you have an excuse to leave. Say, I gotta go to the bathroom.
if we're still going after 2 hours, I might. But so they get out of there, or so they're like, okay, you guys are done now. Can we have we need the lane? It's like, okay, so we made $20. Yeah, minus the shoe rental, which is $5. Okay, so 15 each. So 5. And I'm like, oh God, how are you guys going to split $5?
Well, they buy the ramen noodles with it, so.
Yes, they do. And I absolutely love that Tara Reid uses her drumsticks as chopsticks. I'm like, she is the perfect blonde joke, folks. I'm not kidding when I say that. She is the perfect blonde joke. And
that's kind of like endearing, though, too. It's like,
it is. I'm not saying it as a bad thing.
Blonde joke. Yeah.
She's the perfect blonde joke in a good way. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And
no,
yeah. Let me just readjust here. I'm sitting on a metal chair with a pillow.
That's okay.
So yeah.
I'm on a purple chair. I think you can kind of tell.
Yeah. And Jack of all casuals, good to see you. And hello to the chat, and hail to us. Yes, hail to us. We are your lords and saviors. I wish. Anyway, no, I don't. Their manager comes in, plus Alexandria, who's the sister to the manager, and I'm like, this dude is such kind of a douchebag, but not really. And he gets them on he says something that really, I can't remember what he says, that really excites Tara. And she just starts running between different rooms. And I'm like, gosh, this girl is such a lost puppy, but I love it. Folks,
he's like, I can't be 2 places at once. Or more than
yeah,
one.
and then she's like, I could, and then what? Oh my,
you could be
God.
in here, or you could be in here, or you could be in there while you're in there.
Exactly. And it's, as like I said, folks, it took me a while to get through this movie. 9 hours. But I'm kind of glad I did, because it is funny. It's one of those movies that it's just, in my opinion, it is just so bad that you gotta love it.
I love that about movies.
Yeah, there's movies that are bad, like so bad that you want nothing to do with.
I feel this way about G.I. Joe too. Just so you know. So.
Which one? Or did you say, or Jojo Rabbit, or?
No, G.I. Joe. Sorry.
Oh, G.I. Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, the one with Channing Tatum in it. I love that movie. I know it's horrible. I don't care.
Yeah, I liked Snake Eyes. That was the saving grace. Ray Park, good on you, dude. You saved a movie. You also saved the second one, which was god awful, but I also loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you give a bad guy a redemption arc, that's kind of pretty cool. Not to mention, you made a Greek woman into a Japanese woman, which was kind of weird. But hey, it works. But so back to Josie and the Pussycats. They're looking for this gig. They got it. They're trying to get this big gig.
Mm-hmm.
And we get introduced to Alan M. And he's like, or because Josie's just fantasizing about that dream, you know? And then Alan N comes in and she wrecks half of her room because he comes in and catches her playing the guitar to herself and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, do you need your car or your truck fixed again? And I'm like, okay, this girl knows how to fix a truck. She's marriage material. Just saying, folks. In my area where I live in the Adirondacks, if most women here know how to fix a car, know how to fix a truck, they're auto mechanic adept. And they also know how to shoot guns. So, yeah, that's also a plus.
So you've been warned.
Yeah.
Bride hunting won't be easy where you live.
You know how there's those protective dads for proms?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the Adirondacks, if you piss off the prom date will shoot you, not the dad. So, yeah.
That's good.
I remember thinking, why are they making a movie about an okay cartoon? Honestly, I haven't checked out the cartoon, but the movie was funny, man. Parker Posey is the most ridiculous actor or actress in the world, but she plays her villainous character so great. I mean, Litha later on in the film, and it's like, you all have no idea. Oh, we don't. Okay. Yeah, I've been bullied in high school, so I not because I had a lisp, but because of other reasons. So, yeah, I'm not saying victimhood or anything, but it's like, oh, believe me, sweetheart, I know what it's like to be treated like shit in high school.
Yeah.
So I can relate to the character in that regard.
Yeah, it does make you realize that there is something worse than victimhood too.
Victimhood breeds villainy. Let's just say that victimhood breeds villainy in this film, and you see it breaking through the cracks. I looked at this movie through a psychological standpoint because I kind of always do that with how I am. Psychology comes naturally to me. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't need to crack open a book about psychology to learn about it, but I'm like, I see her character, I hear her talking, and then I'm like, she's had something happen to her. What the heck happened to her? Alrighty. And then I noticed when she brings in the Pussycats later for their party and whatnot, I'm like, she brings her to a girl. She's never had friends.
Clearly.
And then the lisp pokes through again, and I'm like, speech impediment. That's probably why she didn't have friends. Mm-hmm. Right. I got you pegged now, girl.
Yeah.
Also,
I love that about her character, though, is that everything's set up for her. You know something's wrong. You're still sympathetic. You kind of understand her, even if you don't agree with what she does. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this movie, too. You can see that across all the characters. I mean, like, you cannot say that about a lot of modern films at all.
Oh, no. This movie, honestly, I don't think it can be made today. To be 100% honest, because it actually involves good comedy storytelling.
Yeah.
I mean, this is about an evil corporation trying to brainwash the youth of America. Like, what are subliminal messaging, folks, is the enemy in this film. And I just love how the guy that's the corrupt agent, the corrupt bad guy, he's like, at the end, he's like, We were
Spoilers.
going to take down your whole operation anyway. Turns out that movies is the best way to corrupt the youth of America. And then it's like, love Josie and the Pussycats. Join the army. I'm like,
best movie ever. And then underneath that
Yeah.
says join the army.
yeah. I mean, we're going to go all over this movie, folks. We're jumping back and forth, but oh my God, this movie is just that nuts, and I love it. I mean, so
There's
Alan
a lot
Cumming-
what I like about it though is it like it's very snarky at times, but and critiquey with society. But it's also very sincere. Like if you look at Josie and the Pussycats themselves, that they're on this like very sincere quest for stardom and fame and like making their dreams come true. I mean, they kind of start to realize at some point that that's not necessarily what they want or what they need, but
yeah,
you know, it's still
not
like
the
that part of it
dream.
is played straight.
Yeah, it's not the dream that they want, or it's the dream that they wanted, but the reality of it is far more.
Yeah.
Not the reality is not what they envisioned.
Yeah, and that's I mean, like part
And
of
that's
the
a
reason
good-
the satire behind it works so effectively is because a lot of this is sincere. A lot of people today, when you move past like Marvel humor, you just want sincerity at the end of the day.
And there's a line in this movie that she actually drops to Tara Reid's character, Melody. It's like, the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. I'm like, did Rocky Balboa just rip off Josie and the Pussycats? Holy shit! Because we all know from Rocky Balboa, everybody who's seen it, the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. I'm like,
I think it's a pretty common phrase, to be honest. So I mean, it's in
sure,
it's in
but
that.
I've only heard it twice. I've only ever heard it twice. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. I've only ever heard it twice in movies, and I've never heard it said out loud in real world.
Okay,
unless
so
it was from quoting from a movie.
Your next guest review with me then is going to be Trolls. So
please don't.
Justin Timberlake singing, come on.
But yeah, so we get Alan Cumming going to the music store, releasing the world single of Du jour after their plane crash, and everybody's listening to it, and he sees one teenage goth girl doesn't subscribe to the
message,
to the brainwashed masses, and she's like, it sucks, man. And he's like, oh, well, we're always on the lookout for people like you, and we always are interested in hearing what you have to say. He takes it down to the exit of the building. They literally kidnapped this woman. And I'm like, okay, that's a thing. I honestly didn't see that coming. One of the things I do like about stupid funny films, folks, and yeah, to me, this is what's known as a stupid funny film. Not that it's the movie's stupid. It's just that it has what I call stupid humor, where it is the dumbest things that are making you laugh. That is why I call it stupid humor.
It's a smartly written stupid film, yeah.
Yes. And one of the things that I love about stupid funny movies is that they keep you guessing. They do things that you can't predict. Now, you can read the film very well.
Within the realm of reason, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like aliens abducted her.
No. But, I mean, but when they literally have, it's like, what? And then anytime the Pussycats were starting to think independently, that damn phone comes up and he's dialing. He's like, get ready. We're going to need somebody to, oh shit. Okay. Never mind. False alarm. And I'm like, really? Wow. This dude is like ready to kill these women at any freaking chance, at the slightest chance.
Part of the thing though, is like
I love it.
Can't know that there's subliminal messages in their music. So because otherwise they're like part of it, you know, they're more of a risk. So you have to control them without them realizing that you're controlling them. So I actually really like this part of Wyatt's characterization too, like Alan Cumming's character, because he notices and multiple times he forgets Valerie, like almost on purpose.
Yes.
But he like digs into this because it's his way of controlling them later. Like when he suggests that like just Melanie and Valerie go to TRL with Carson Daly.
Yeah.
To where they're going to get murdered, presumably.
Yep. I noticed right
off
off when they started.
He plays off of her insecurities and her flaws.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I mean, he immediately when they started the breakup attempt, I picked up. It's like, okay, so Josie and the Pussycats, she's the first one to notice, so he's going to go after her first. He's going to have to play off of her to get her pissed off.
Well, that makes sense, too, because she's kind of like, as you said earlier, she's the protective one. So you kind of have to penetrate or find a way around the defenses first.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a very smart tactical move on Wyatt's part.
Oh, yeah.
Even underhanded, terrible.
He plays on her insecurities very easily. And it's like, dude, you busted through her firewall in like less than a minute. Damn. And so you see this, and he then starts drunk. It's like, hey, you guys, it's like, oh, I didn't even realize you weren't in here. Wow. Yikes. I mean, folks, believe me, if this movie was made today, holy crap, would people be outraged about how certain characters were treated and whatnot. And I'm thankful that this movie was made 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because
that's part of the other reason I really like it is because women today in film and media aren't very likable. They're not very
they're starting to become less likable. One of the things is Rosario Dawson, she does say some stupid stuff nowadays, but for the most part, she's actually kept her mouth shut. Rachel, go ahead.
Film career too, so she knows that I think on some level that she's disposable. I think actresses who have their comebacks and they keep kind of like they're more aware of how fickle the crowd is versus somebody that's really famous and has consecutive hits wrote, like they get away with it a lot. Like they get away with a lot of stuff, so they think they'll keep getting away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Rosario Dawson's honestly not well, she's already done her fair share of shall we say skin?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's been movies where she has done full frontals, where she's done sexual content.
I don't know about that.
I haven't seen those films, to be completely honest.
I was thinking of like her movie with 7 Pounds with Will Smith, and then there's I know she's Ahsoka.
Yeah, so, and there's also the controversial other things that, I mean, she did somebody tried suing her for transphobic stuff.
Oh, well, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's going to fall away really quick because that case just seems very suspect. But for the most part, she hasn't really done anything that's earned ire. And that's fine. I mean, I think Rosario Dawson is actually quite a good actress.
Yeah. I mean, that's how she got cast in so many good roles.
Yeah. I mean,
earned her goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
And she's mostly kept it, so that is nice.
I mean, she's also wondering why she hasn't been brought back into Marvel, because now Daredevil's coming back into the MCU, and she's like, hey, guys, are you going to bring me back in? Because I love that, or I love being that character.
We'll see, I guess.
She was very good in the Netflix Marvel shows, her doctor role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well.
Yeah. Unless your talented beauty can only take you so far. Yes, let's just say that is very true for some people. Amber Heard. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud?
I'm sure YouTube will let you slide with that one.
Oh, believe me, it's like, you guys can demonetize me all you want. I'm not even monetized.
Oh, well. I'm working my way up, so I better not say anything
bad. That's not even my real goal. I mean, I would like it as an option later on, sure, but my goal isn't really money. But right anyway.
Money either, so
yeah.
I'm here to have a good time for now.
Exactly. That's my point. It's like, I'm not seeing this as something to earn money off of. I'm seeing this to raise awareness and also to have fun.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, like this past week, like it was because of Society Reviews actually that I was like, oh my gosh, this is why so many people have podcasts, because this is their excuse to like talk with their friends.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all, believe me, when I finally found out that there were people like me out there that is noticing a shift in entertainment, believe me, it's like, oh my God, I thought I was alone for so long. It literally is that cliche. But back to Josie and the
Yeah, back to
Pussycats.
Josie. We'll get off on lots of things.
Yeah. When he lifts, another thing I like is where he takes that CD case, whips it to the side to get the paper out of it, lifts up the thing, and I'm like, oh my God, really? And then he just flicks his wrist, and the dang contract is out. Anybody feel like this might be moving too fast? No! Just go with it. And I'm like, wow. And then all of this, or their success story, they're selling songs, they're getting they're rising up the billboard. Does anybody feel like this is kind of weird that this all just happened in a week? And I'm like, wait, what? What?
In a week? It's only been a week? Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm like, this is stuff that usually takes like a month because the billboard. I know a little bit of something about the billboards, folks. That's like that thing fluctuates every 30 days, or at least it used to. But yeah, weekly, or those were the smaller billboard stuff.
Yeah.
But holy crap. I mean, or no, it was weekly. But the way that they're climbing up daily, apparently, is kind of interesting. It's like they would be down to 80s, but then they would be literally at number one because they actually do it every or a week or to 30 days for the bigger billboard musics and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of the fun of the satire is like
Exactly
things that are they're absurd, they're not implausible.
Yeah.
They're just highly unlikely. And that's kind of like the fun thing. I mean, you can kind of actually see this on TikTok today where somebody will be like super famous in like 10 minutes and like, yay.
Gone like that. It's like they'll be yeeted or Thanos'd out, man. It's like, you did a good video, but now this is the new thing.
Yes. And actually,
that's all throughout this movie.
I really like that part of the movie. They kept it really simple for that.
Yeah.
It's like, I really want orange shoes. So
yeah,
orange is the new pink.
Yeah, and then another color is the new orange, and Parker Posey literally brings like foreign diplomats in the U.S. government to show them. It's like, everybody thinks we're a record company. This is the truth. We're controlling the youth of America. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst nightmare I could be. This is what we are fighting against in real life. We're trying to get people to wake up.
Like when I agreed to come on, you mentioned like favorite scenes and stuff, and one of my favorite scenes from this movie is the part with Eugene Levy, and he just comes on and he's like, "That's what we do," and then he's like so rude to his assistant, and then lady comes out with the American flag, and he's like, "God bless America," you know.
Oh, right. And then there's this next scene where they're in their little, or she's doing her little villainous thing, and she's literally the walking version of acupuncture. That outfit, I'm like, only Parker Posey could do this. I'm pretty sure she had some sort of input on what she was going to wear, because holy crap, man.
See, I think this is where, like, if you look at like a lot of like runway stuff out and stuff, and like this is before Project Runway too. So like you can almost kind of see this as a real thing, like this absurd wardrobe. And I mean, it's just kind of it is part of the critique, I think, of celebrity culture in general. So I think that's funny to me.
And I love it
Everybody
too.
wants to be the beautiful, popular prom queen.
Yeah, and
but you lose all your dignity.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then she turns around and says something under her breath. What was that?
See, I really like
didn't say anything.
Yeah, I really like that scene because it sets it up later when she's like, huh, what? I didn't say anything. That's not me.
Yeah. And then it's like, but you did say something. We heard you say it. And it's like, well, I meant this. And I meant, what I meant was, and she just, he's like, whew, that was close. What? Huh? I meant that was so, or that was close, as in regards to this and that. And I'm like, wow. Only she could sell bullshit as freaking fudge, man. As hot fudge. And she could do it successfully.
This could be me laughing at your reactions. Just like
I mean, yeah. Well, it's like, holy crap. Parker Posey is so talented that she could sell shit as hot fudge and get away with it. Folks, that's not an exaggeration either, because that's what she does in this film. Not literally, but
taste in music, maybe.
Yeah, but the progression of this film is actually, the pacing is actually pretty good in this film. Having it like an hour 40 to I think an hour 50 was actually pretty good. And once they get on the plane, and I love how Alexandria is like, well, now that you guys are going to be all big and famous, you're going to go away, and I'm going to have all the time with Alan M. I can't believe you convinced them, cut to the plane. I can't believe you convinced them to keep or to take me with you and whatnot. Yeah. It's so cool. It's like, she's like, shh, what? Wait, what? I kind of told them that you were my guitar tech. Okay. What a douche. But
yeah, for what it's worth too, I really like that this is like young adult. There's like no parental involvement whatsoever with it.
Exactly.
Like, your parents aren't dead. You don't know what they're doing.
These are teenagers. They're teenagers. Yeah. They're like 17 or 18, I think. Probably even into their 20s.
They're kind of like 21 because they had to sign
contracts. Well, yeah. Maybe they're 20s.
Yeah, but they're still very young and kind of, like I said, naive about the world. So.
Exactly. But one of the things I do like about in the beginning, they actually show that they're community driven as well. They're in the community helping out while they're doing their whole band shtick.
Yeah.
I mean, Valerie was also reading at libraries for kids and whatnot. Yeah. And that was pretty cool too, because it showed that they care about people, you know?
They're good people.
Yeah. And then we get
I mean, like with Captain Marvel, like that's probably the best thing that I can think of as far as like for a comp in that. Like when you see her memories, it's kind of like the same kind of montage flashback thing, but it just doesn't have any like real buddy with it, I guess. And I mean, even in the scenes where she's with people, it's more like they're antagonistic and stuff. It's kind of like a negative characterization in Captain Marvel. Here, it's more of a positive one where you see them interacting. You can see their friendship and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like as you were saying.
Mm-hmm. And so when they're flying the plane to New York City, to Manhattan, and believe me, folks, I actually did shed a tear for that scene because they actually show them flying onto Manhattan, and you do see the Twin Towers up. And it's like...
This was before 9/11. So.
Yes, this was before 9/11. I'm like, oh my gosh, is it possible to miss buildings you've never been to?
Yes.
Or a scenery that you've seen so many times but can no longer, unless it's through film or memory. I mean, it was really nice.
They did like deck them out in all sorts of like company logos,
yes, oh my god,
McDonald's arch.
Yes, that giant McDonald's arch. I'm like, how big is that thing? Holy crap! That thing literally you could have put on top of the towers.
Probably.
Literally on top of them. And holy crap. That's how big it was, folks. The arches.
It's not a very long shot either. It's probably like 2 seconds.
No.
Like that.
Yeah,
And
it's
you see
like
a lot
4 or
of
5
company
seconds.
brands on it. Like Target probably was like a big
Yeah.
sponsor in this film.
Also, when he goes up to the cockpit with the pilot, and the pilot's literally starting to get ready to jump, he's like, no, we're not this time. I'm like, oh my god. That was just so freaking hilarious. He's like, oh, time to dump these bitches, huh? Nope. No, we're not dumping these ones yet.
Yeah,
Not
and that's
yet.
again, like, so they have like a lot of setup and payoff in the film that I like. They also have callbacks that are very well synced, like that. Like obviously with Wyatt and the pilot jumping out of the plane.
Yeah.
It's time for du jour to meet their end.
Yeah.
And then you have here, it's like, no, these girls are good. We're gonna be just fine.
And then they put him in the studio, and they see the Mega Box 8000 or whatever it is.
Mega Sound 3000.
Yeah, Mega Sound 3000. And they're like, well, play something for us. And then they sing their song, and then he plays it back. But what you don't, then you realize, or then they find, or she's like, I want a Big Mac. But you're vegetarian. I know, but I really want a Big Mac. I'm like, oh, this is how they're doing it. Okay, gotcha. And then the other two wanted different shoes, and the other one wanted something else. And I'm like, wow, okay, that works. So yeah, they are somehow able to do mind control, because subliminal messaging does not work like that. Not to that extreme degree, but I do love how they make it a bigger thing later on. It's like, we are going to put this message in, and you're wondering what that message is going to be. And it is the most funniest but pitiful message ever. But we'll get to that later. I really love how they take the second step, because Parker Posey's like, we got to break up these bitches. Because she's realizing that Josie's or Valerie is starting to notice that they're focusing more on Josie. She's on the can. She's on billboards more. She's in front of the camera more and whatnot. And Alan Cumming, Wyatt, he's just dropping things. He's like, you got to really learn how to take a compliment, Valerie. Just take it.
And it comes about too, because like after Fiona like meets with Josie and Valerie and Melody in like her back room with the girls and stuff, Josie's the only one that doesn't say anything bad about her afterwards, because Valerie's like, that was like so creepy and cringy, and Melody's like, I feel something weird, like a cold chill goes down my spine when you say her name, and like they watch this all on camera, of course, because it's brother, big sister type stuff, and Josie's like, what do you think? And she doesn't actually say anything, but she's like, this is kind of weird, but I don't know if it's normal weird, because like this whole experience is kind of, so she's the only one that really does not, she more or less doesn't earn Fiona's suspicion and ire and insecurity. And like when you don't have a lot of friends and you see stuff like that, you would want to focus on the party that's giving you the not negative attention.
Yeah, the positive or the positivity.
Yeah, again, set up and payoff, pretty well done.
Yeah. I also like, it's like, as soon as you said her name, I felt this cold chill run up my spine. That's because you're sitting next to the O, honey.
Yeah, there's this,
and it's this frozen O, this ice sculpture of the O, because Fiona.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, but even now that I'm not standing next to it, I still get this cold chill up my spine, and I just can't tell why. And when she takes them in, you hear her lisp a little bit, and she goes out, she comes back, she's not lisping anymore. Her tray of snacks is like 6 Oreos, or a bunch of M&Ms, like Pringles and other things, and she puts one Pringle on a plate and gets ready to bite. And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so fat and whatnot." I'm like, "What?" You're like, or she's like, "How much do you weigh, Josie?" "What? How much do you weigh?" 118. "Ah, I'm 115. I beat you." And it's like, she needs friends. She's looking for friends. This girl, when I saw that, it's like this is coming across as a more like a 5-year-old's sleepover. You know, it
Well,
does
I
kind
would
of
say
appear like that.
5-year-old because
Well, maybe not a 5-year-old, but
year old woman.
yeah. I mean, this is it's more like a childish sleepover, is what she sold it as.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is kind of like a
Yeah.
reminiscent of like teenage girls sleepovers and stuff. I mean, like I once asked one of my guy friends, I'm like, "Hey, what do you boys talk about when girls aren't around?" And he told me masturbation. I was like, "Okay, so girls."
What?
And
When I was talking with my friends, it wasn't about masturbation. I mean, they're like, "So what are you guys doing?" "Oh, I'm pretty much going to be doing this. And I'm like,
so when Fiona does this whole thing, though, I mean, I really think it is kind of reminiscent of like young teenage girls who want to be friends and stuff, because they're like, we braid each other's hair and pillow fights, and it's just, that's kind of how girls actually do sleepovers, or they did, because can't do sleepovers anymore.
Yeah, no, COVID, everybody, it's gonna kill you.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like, I think part of the reason that I like it more is because I've been in that position where you have no friends, and that you have had like enough experiences, like
I was the outcast in high school.
Put this together, and you do feel like, I do feel sympathy for Fiona when it comes down to it. Like, she's this absolutely broken woman who's like trying to recapture her childhood dreams and fantasies, and in that way she's also like a really good foil to Josie, who just wants to be like a rock star, you know. But like in the foil sense too, like Josie ends up becoming like somewhat of a hero at the end for like stepping away from stuff, spoiler. And but Fiona actually like indulges in her villainy to get her dream to come true. And this is actually something that's universally kind of contemplated across literature, because you see things like this in like probably The Great Gatsby is like the most well-known work that has this like central kind of theme as its main theme, is trying to recapture your dream even though the time for the dream has passed, and you become somewhat of a villain getting there. Yep. So I'm a literature major. Did I mention that?
She writes books, folks.
Oh yes, I also write stuff. If you guys haven't noticed my lovely green screen here.
So also, we then get to the shower scene with Tara Reid, and she's using a French fry duvet, and I'm like, what?
There are such things as potato scrubbers, so it's actually kind of.
She's singing "If You're Happy and You Know It, Clap Your Hands." She claps it and drops. Oh, and if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. You clap. Oh, and then she's singing the whole thing through, and she just keeps repeating the thing. And somebody writes on the mirror, "Beware the music." Ah! And then you see her doing this thing off of the screen, and like just off the screen. Ah.
Yeah. That's better.
She folds up the words. She dots the I with a heart and other stuff. I'm like, oh God.
Yep. She's like, that's better. It's so
and you're
cute.
wondering who's doing this stuff, because you see the shadow go by the shower, and it's like, wow, okay, so you also see somebody was at the party too and whatnot, following them. So you're wondering who it is. And it's the best payoff at near the end, but we're not going to spoil it yet.
Okay, we'll spoil later.
Yeah. And so then we see Alan M versus Wyatt. He's like, well, I want to take Josie out so she can see my eye. Well, she's got to do this. She's got to do that. That's like, well, 2 o'clock, MSNBC, 3 o'clock, da-da-da. Well, when is she open? 4 o'clock then. 4:15. Fine, 4:15. I mean, it is just so freaking funny.
Yeah, I gotta say the next scene though is like when they're at the aquarium when he and Josie are in the aquarium. That's like my favorite scene. So
Yes.
yeah,
And she realizes that she has these insecurities, and they're walking through and they're like, oh my God, is that Josie? And it's like, get away.
I
But
I gotta say too, like I like Josie's character because she has like I said earlier, like she's a relatable, flawed
yes.
character. And this is part of her flaw is that she is wrapped up in her dream so much that when Alan's like talking about his, and I think part of the reason they work really well together is because they have similar dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, what if I can't do it? And what if I'm not a rock star? He and she's like, what if I fail? Like, how do I do this? And he says to her, well, you just gotta believe in yourself. And she says, well, what if I can't? And he says, then I'll believe in you for you.
Yep.
And I gotta say, I really love this, like on a super personal level, because I mean, like I'm a writer, I'm a creator. I love, like my favorite character probably is Josie because I relate to her mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And like as a creator, you do wonder, does my work suck?
Yeah. You
do
need the people. You need reinforcement, whether it be positive or something else.
Well, and I go to
And
my husband sometime, and he can probably tell you, like he'll tell, he's working right now, but like he'll tell you, like I say, if I never sell another book, will you still love me? And I know what that feeling of like you're gonna fail and this is all gonna implode and you're gonna
mm-hmm.
get your heart broken and your ego smashed and your dreams are gonna die. I know how that feels, and I don't have a subliminal record company behind me that's
Yeah.
helping me succeed or anything. So the fact that he
Buy
says
her
that
books.
makes me so happy, and I tear up because I'm a mom and I'm a soppy romantic at heart. I still have a brain though, so
Hey, you're talking to somebody who's read the 50 Shades trilogy.
I'll
So
see. I couldn't get past the 50% mark on the first book. I was like, this woman is insane. She doesn't have an email at college. At college, I mean, like, okay. I tried reading it. I did not want to
honestly,
use
when I started reading
right.
it's like, why am I reading this book? Oh, so this is why, because this dude is so screwed up. They could literally teach this in colleges for a psych degree.
Well, and that's
I
part of
mean,
the charm. I mean, women like fixing men. That's just one of our shticks.
oh, if anybody was that fucked up, one woman would have their hands full for years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
Christian Grey is like a shattered mirror without reflection.
so in that way, he is kind of like the vampire fan fiction that he was born out of.
Kinda, yeah. There's
I
just
did read
also a lot of
Twilight.
sex
I
over
was like, I'm pretty sure my sister-in-laws hate me because they were like, "Oh, have you read this book? We love this book." And I read this book, and I'm like, "This is every teenage girl's wet dream. Why would you like this book?" And then yep, they're like, "You're a writer, right?" So we just don't talk about it.
Yeah. And then
So
I actually did a review for the trilogy on my channel. Uh, in the mystery reviews, it was actually my second one, I believe. No, it was my first mystery review where I actually did the review for the full trilogy. And it's like, this is a person who has actually read the books, and I brought up the books because I still have them. I actually own the books for the
yeah.
50 Shades. And then I looked at the movies, and I'm like, there's differences.
Hmm.
But believe me, if they tried putting if they tried, even the unrated edition for 50 Shades didn't have a certain scene from the first movie. And I'm like, I don't, it's kind of good that they didn't put it in, but it's also part of a key aspect of her relationship as to why she has an absolutely not in certain things that she'll do. But
I'll have to take your word for it.
yeah, or when people say that if you're going to adapt a movie that is from a book, you got to adapt it the right way.
Mhm.
50 Shades wasn't actually that bad. Yeah, they changed some things here and there, and a lot of people had a lot of problems with the 50 Shades movies because, oh my god, this is not what BDSM is all about. And it's like, maybe not your version of it.
I think that is one of the areas that you do kind of get into when you talk about controversial topics, is because everybody kind of, I mean, like, I don't believe it that, like, some people rail against the idea of objectivity. I think that's bunk, because otherwise we wouldn't have movies. Does that make sense? We have some
When
kind
it
of
comes to objectivity,
yeah, but
it's
subjectively like of different things, like you see different things. I think that's entirely possible. I do think there's a limit to it.
yeah.
So I mean, postmodernism is built on that limit, and it's like hanging itself now. So yeah. There are many things, and I think I think a lot of people recognize that the death of postmodernism has come, and they are trying to Frankenstein it back to life in many regards, just because they don't really know where to go after that. They'd have to go back, and going back is not something that quote unquote progressive intellectuals would do. So it doesn't matter how it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So back to Josie again.
Yeah, back to Josie.
And after another,
like, we haven't even gotten to past page 1 of my notes.
I know, right? So the scene where he guilt trips Josie into listening to the single while or he's like, yeah, his or your boyfriend just called, they canceled their, or he's canceling his thing, and whatnot. He left a message at the front desk. Well, what did the message say? Oh, yeah, he said that he wouldn't be able to take it. And so here, flicks the damn CD at her. And he just he snaps at her. I love how he does that. And guilt trips her and whatnot. Then he's also just going back, talking on for a minute. What are you saying to someone? God damn it, Josie, I manage more than just you guys. Oh my god.
No, again, I think that's a great instance of characterization on her part, where she's very much an innocent person when it comes to dealing with like the big time people, and it marks her, and again, in that kind of good way of being kind of like a person of goodwill, being a person of goodwill in a world where goodwill doesn't really exist. So, and then like, I will say, like, I love the song that plays like that. The song that plays, I forget what it's called, but and yeah, I love this. I like the music a lot in the movie. It's very fitting. It's very happy, bright, colorful, kind of random at times, and not very clear. But it doesn't always fit. I notice that more as an adult now, but I think that's just something that you notice more as an adult in general. Like, even if somebody is beautiful, they can be absolutely terrible. Even if something is bright and happy and cheerful, it could be like this really morbid, violent thing. And when I think of that, I actually think of like the French national anthem for that. Apparently it's very gory and violent, but it sounds so cheerful and like, you know, like vigorous and inspiring. And it's like really violent. So I think that's like a good point to make too about the movie. The music is great, and then, but it's also like this tool of evil in the
well, it's a tool of evil after it's been tainted with their subliminal messaging. Hold on a moment.
Yeah.
Damn thing.
Yeah, and so when Wyatt gives Josie the CD, and it's got like all this like anti-mal and anti-val stuff on it.
Yeah, and it's like, they're gonna poison you, and then then they try to come back after they're almost killed by Carson Daly.
This is actually super like kind of meta funny in some ways that people remember, because Carson Daly and Tara Reid were going to get married at the time that this was filmed. Like, they were dating, and they got engaged for a while, and Um,
He wasn't the manager for the Spice Girls in that Spice Girls movie. I fully admit that I have actually seen the Spice Girls movie.
I would you say I read somewhere that Robert Ebert gave this film and the Spice Girls movies one like a half star, and it was the only time that he's ever gone that low. And I laughed at that because I'm like, this is very similar to the movie.
That kind of reminds me of Jack Sparrow in a moment, as like, you are the absolute worst pirate I've ever heard of, but you have heard of me. And it's like, Roger Ebert, these are the absolute worst movies that I could have ever seen, but you did see them.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, like I actually thought about it later too, because like I mean, part of the reason that this also works is because Josie and the Pussycats is kind of like a model of the Spice Girls in many ways. Like Josie's like Ginger Spice, and like Valerie would be like Scary Spice, and then of course like Tara Reid's Melody, she's kind of like Baby Spice, like this. I mean, it's got the aesthetic.
Like a mix between Baby Spice,
Posey, and
yeah,
and Alan Cummings, Wyatt, he can be Sporty Spice.
Yeah.
So they have all the same kind of like archetypical overtones and in some characteristics. And then like with Du Jour, they have the Backstreet Boys and Sync kind of parodies and 98 Degrees and all this. I mean, like really, like even the scarf that that Marco's wearing. I laughed at that because I'm like, what boy band did that? Some boy band did that.
And then, I mean, when that's like, this isn't TRL. I mean, this looks very different from on TV. Yeah. Oh my God. What have you? It's fake.
Yeah.
And then then this black dude comes up. He's like, I'm Carson Daly. You're not Carson Daly. And then Carson comes in. You got to stop trying to pretend to be me, man. And I'm like, oh my God. So then Carson. Yeah.
And I remember the Bill Cosby impression.
Yeah.
Although, you know, like it's kind of funny because like he basically gets hit and stuff, so maybe
Meatloaf drives. Yeah, in Spice World, Meatloaf was the bus driver, and he literally drops one of the best damn lines in that movie.
Oh,
they're like, yeah. Have you ever seen Spice World?
It's been a long time, but I love that movie too. So.
I mean, I'll fully admit there are some great moments in that movie where their freaking manager is so pissed that he's literally throwing knives at a dartboard with the picture of the damn Spice Girls on it. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, seriously? And
what I remember about that movie was the part that I remember about the Spice Girls that I really still love, and that's probably the reason that I still love the movie, is that the media was always trying to make them out to be terrible people, like controversial in sales. And I was like, oh,
I know. It's so great.
Yeah, I mean, the media was the bad guy in that one.
The bus driver, though, Meatloaf, they crash, or their bus breaks down and the toilet breaks down, and so they all go out into the woods. This is where they're about to meet the aliens. But it's like, how do all of them have to go to the bathroom at exactly the same time? And they're like, hey man, I don't know. Well, the manager's like, well, what do you expect me to, or the bus driver's like, what do you expect me to do about it? I don't know, fix the toilet. He's like, hey, I love these girls and I'll do anything for them, but I won't do that. Meanwhile, dropping that line. Him dropping that line, I'm like, only a legend can get away with that line, and damn it, he did it.
Yeah.
I love these girls, and I'll do anything for them, but I won't do that. For music, I mean, this is music related, so it fits with the conversation. I mean, Meatloaf is just the perfect kind of thing, man.
Yeah, but I mean, like the brainwashing CD like succeeds, and Josie acts like a total queen turd bucket.
Yeah, she drops, or she's just dropping all. She knows exactly what to say to them to break them down, and when she goes, oh, by the way, Melody, I don't know, or you really need to hear this, so this will help you later on. Puppies grow up to be dogs. They get old, they die. And I'm like, that's fucking cruel. Because what does Melody do right after while they're breaking up? She goes and is looking at a bunch of puppies, and she's knocking on, or she's finger tapping the glass, and it's like while she's crying, and I'm like, oh my god, that is just so freaking heartbreaking. And then she realizes, or Josie's walking through the town, realizing slowly. I mean, it almost looks like an acid trip where everything starts to distort and warp. And I'm like, uh-oh, she's waking up. Where's Alan coming with that cell phone? But yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like she sees pictures of like them hanging out and they're being besties and they're having lots of fun. And this is combating, like the messages are getting mixed and stuff. So it's breaking the programming, and then she falls over. And I mean, like her shoes in this movie, I gotta say, are just insane.
Yeah.
Like across
also
the board, all her shoes
bus,
making, like this could be a horror movie.
Yeah.
It was just with her shoes.
Her bus pass, all of their bus passes have all three of them on their bus passes together. And they did oh my god, I forgot to bring this up. They did the promise of friends first, band second.
Yes.
Which was an important part of this movie, which I can't believe I forgot to bring up. But we also, Parker, or Fiona is her character's name. I keep on forgetting that Fiona is the name of the villainy and whatnot. It's like, well, what if they start realizing what you're doing? We have a show for that. Cue behind the music from VH1. And I'm like, are you? When I saw that, I'm like, okay, I gotta pause. Oh my
we call it reliable sources now, okay?
Yeah, it's like I'm like, you could have just had a "Where Are They Now?" But no, you went behind the music. And I'm thinking, I used to watch that show when I was younger, 20 odd years ago, 22, 23 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch that show, man.
Well, see, I liked it because I grew up in church, and like MTV was Satan's channel. So and the fact that they kind of are the bad guys with this made me laugh.
Yeah. And it's like, holy crap. So then the guy that sang I can't remember the name of the singer, but the ones that, I think it was We Are Family or something like that. Or no. What was the song? Rosario Dawson was watching it because he also dropped, I wish it was the band first or friends first, band second. I wish I had gotten that in writing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so crushing, but I love it. And it's so great. And then, but I can't get over how Dark Josie is. I call that whole scene, where she's just evil. It's like, that's Dark Josie. That's Dark Side Jason Wilson from Star Wars, and I absolutely freaking love it.
Yeah.
But I can also not get over the fact that Carson Daly tried to kill Tari. It's like, okay, the blonde's mine. I mean, when she's just giving off so ditzy, it's like, okay, the blonde one's mine. I'm like, yeah, she annoyed you that much that you just had to kill her. So then she figures it out, and then Parker comes in, and she's like, oh, well, what? You thought I was going to frickin' just let you leave and whatnot?
Yeah, Josie like breaks the programming, and she like kind of figures out there's something about the music because she's listening to it, and then the thing stopped, and she's like, okay, something's wrong. So she goes to the recording studio, and she figures out with Alexandra and Alexander, and they and she finds the subliminal messages. And it's funny to me now because it's like it reminds me of like the movie trailer. What is that? The YouTube channel with the movie, the real movie trailer thing.
Honest trailers, yeah.
Yeah.
Honest trailers.
And it's like the epic voice guy.
Yeah.
So that and she's like, she can hear all the things that like basically she repeated to them while she was yelling at them and stuff. Dark Josie.
Mm-hmm.
And then Parker Posey comes in and she's like, "Oh, you really thought I was just gonna let you get away with all this?"
Yeah. And they're planning on this whole concert for them. Ears go out all over the world for it's gonna have the most
3DX surround sound.
3D, yeah. And what they're gonna hear is gonna be the most profound message of all time. And then they're like, well, who's gonna save them because this is looking bleak? Well, they have the girls come back in and they're like, here's what we got in store. And they show them a car. Hey, we won a car. No, you didn't win a car. You won a car. Nobody won a car. Oh. Well, what's with the car? The MTV chick is doing a news report that Josie's friends died in a fiery car crash where they burned to death slowly and suffered horribly. She's saying that in the report. And I'm like, wow, you don't hold back, do you? And it's like, this is what happens if you don't perform. Mm-hmm. And they're doing these I love yous, and it's like, oh my God, you are the heart of this thing, and you are the heart of the Pussycats, and I love you, and it's like, oh, we love you, and then, oh my God, yes, you scream and we scream, you all scream for ice cream. Parker Posey just jumps right in, pushes her off the side, and it's like, that I like, because that's a villain that's just getting sick of the freaking good guy dialogue. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yes, you scream, I scream, we all scream for ice cream. Shut up. You got a show to do. Well, who's going to believe you? Well, if I don't do it, I'll tell everybody. Who's going to believe you? We will. Dun, dun, dun. The reveal that du jour survived. They're all in body casts. Except for one of them who has a neck brace and is walking with one thing. Even the freaking monkey is in a body cast.
Yeah, the monkey's on the guy's shoulder in a cast, body cast.
Yeah. And we're gonna stop you. It's like, you guys are literally in body casts. How the hell are you even able to walk?
Mm-hmm.
But it was just so freaking hilarious that du jour comes back to try to save the day, except they bought time because Josie was trying to get her
friends out of the car.
Friends free.
That would explode and
what's her name stops it or stops her, and then they find out that she starts lisping again.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes this whole mushy moment about we got to accept people for who they are. It's like, lisping Lisa. What? Nobody ever called me that. People called me that in high school. Huntington High. No. And she's like, who are you? I'm White Ass Willie. White Ass Willie. What? What is White Ass Willie? What the fuck? It's an albino kid, and he's like, well, what about that British accent? Oh, that's not my real accent. Actually, it is, because he actually is British, I believe.
Yeah, he talks an American accent in this part. It's just funny.
Yeah, he goes to an American accent, and he's like, I just wanted to be nodded and whatnot. And it's like, wow. He pulls off the wig, and I'm like, this is just freaking weird.
I really like Alexandra says, so what's the moral of the story here? That freaks should get together with other freaks.
Exactly. Like, so what's the moral of the story?
The best part about this is that the United States government people come in and they're like, the government's here, and he's like, holy crap, there's a skunk on that lady's head.
And so she goes like this to hide it, and he's like, oh my God.
So she's calling out these people that are like freaks and stuff, and then she has to Good setup payoff there. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
Yay for
Now,
good
when she pulls her teeth out or the denture things out, the fake ones, to show that she has the big old gap in between her front teeth, you can actually see that there's an insert there to make it look like there's a gap. I mean, that is just so badly done. It works for the movie though.
I was going to talk about this, but like part of the reason I think that the ending is kind of just really takes this really weird left turn into like absurdity and like absurdity plus is because if you think about it, like the government was like working with the mega record studio to do all this, and then they threw them under the bus, and at the end they're still gonna do it, you know.
Yeah.
So they didn't actually get caught, and I think that's part of the reason. That's part of the charm is that the real bad guy or one of the half of the bad guys in this doesn't actually get stopped.
Government. Yeah. It's like the government. It's like, yeah, we were gonna stop your whole operation after the show because we found out that movies is the way to go. Movies is better for subliminal messaging. Then it shows the watch Josie and the Pussycats join the army. And I'm like, wow, you went there? So then they go up and do their performance, and Alan with an M gets mosh pitted, interrupting the whole concert for the little romance moment.
Like for real, without the messaging and the music.
Yeah. Also, I love how she's like, I'm going to take these off. Everybody takes off their ears. So she goes to put the ears back on. Everybody's mirroring her in the crowd. And then she's like, oh my God, yeah, we're going to sing something. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But I wish that the guy that is this dedicated to was here. And I'm like, wow, this is how brainwashed they all were.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably my second favorite scene is at the end where Josie gets her dream come true. She gets to be a rock star. She's a hero. She gets the guy. Yay, happy ending. So
But I also like how Tara Reid knows martial arts and Rosario Dawson is a wrestler. I mean, it's her versus Wyatt. It's Josie versus Parker Posey.
Yeah.
And it's
again,
Reid
great characterization. Good characterization because they didn't have these girls like trying to do the like strong female thing. They were. It was just like a literal cat fight.
Oh my God! Yes. How you doing, Comic Chat? I mean, with Josie and Fiona, it was literally that, and I'm like, what? I'm thinking, what is this? They actually went there. I'm like, oh my God. I gotta pause. I got up. I walked around. I'm like, what? My brain is like frying. It's like melting right now watching this shit. But I come back and it's like, okay, rewind about a minute and play. Then I'm watching them do it again. I'm like, oh crap, I should have went forward a minute instead. But anyway, I'm like, oh my God, this is just so freaking nuts. It's great, but it's nuts.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason I think this was like a commercial flop is because the like when you sell something to people, you know, you have to like give them proper expectations for it. This is something that I've learned as an author slowly over the past 10 years. Like people want a certain thing, and that's why like troopies, like there's a lot of troops in the movie and stuff, but it's also like well done enough that it's tolerable, you know. And there's surprising twists here and there, but like they kind of sold it as like this rom-com type thing, like you were saying earlier, and it is, but it's also got really nice, like well-defined undertones of social critique and you know, like just kind of like meta commentary. And in 2001, I don't think people were ready for that. So
And
the bad part about it not being made today is that people didn't understand that, I think, back then as much.
yeah, I mean, this movie actually, honestly, this movie should be played today. I mean, it should actually be shown to kids today because it does have some powerful messages. Friendship is pretty important. Accepting people for their differences is
I can
important.
get my list.
Yep. I mean,
I have like a whole essay. I have like a whole essay right here. I don't know if you
yeah,
can see my handwriting, but like the satire adds to the movie, and it doesn't use themes as a crutch. So
mhm,
like, and it's the reason for this is because the satire is complemented by universal things, but it's still speaking to like a particular audience in a particular time. So like if you didn't watch it, I mean, if you watched it as a kid and you didn't pick up on any of the satire at all, you would still have a good time probably.
yeah,
This is like Starship Troopers for with musical,
yeah,
yeah, music people, bands, girl bands, you know.
yeah,
So, but yes, I agree with you there. It's a very fun movie. It's very colorful. It's very absurd at the end. It's got some great surprises and some funny scenes. But they're all
indeed.
complemented by sincerity. They're set up. The characters are well developed and consistent still at the same time. There's a lot of callbacks, you know, good
Yeah.
stuff. So I hate to say that this is a smart movie compared to today's stuff.
No, I mean, this movie. One of the things I also did like about this movie is it had a blooper reel during the credits.
I miss that, you know?
I really do miss those. I mean, one of the funniest blooper reels that I've ever seen during a credit sequence, all the way through a credit sequence, actually, was 10 Things I Hate About You. I love that movie. And
it's based off of The Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare. So
yes,
it would be a very well received film anyway, still.
it was a parody of Taming of the Shrew, but also one that acknowledged Shakespeare throughout.
Yeah, I got a lot of
And
callbacks, I remember.
yeah, that movie was actually, I saw that in theaters when it first came out, and that was the first movie, or that was the first time I also saw the first trailer for Episode 1 of Star Wars. Because I'll always remember the first movie that introduced me to the first trailer of Episode 1 of Star Wars, because that was when Star Wars was making its next step of a comeback. Was
I was
they
gonna say,
did the special edition?
Yeah, with the release of the special editions, there was a lot of renewed interest in the film series.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually thought,
Because
like Episode 1, they were going to re-release it again. So when I got to the theater and it wasn't A New Hope playing, I was like, "What is this?"
yeah, I mean, oh my god, I remember so much of the marketing of that film. I remember going to Ames and seeing the posters and whatnot. Back when Ames was a thing, folks. But yeah, 10 Things I Hate About You had the full, or it had a musical number for some of the credits, and then a blooper reel all throughout. And this one didn't have a blooper reel all throughout, but it still had a blooper reel that played through some of the credits. And I love blooper reels, folks. You got, even with a comedy like this, extra added comedy is always a plus.
Yeah, one of the movies that I like that has the blooper reel thing is the Charlie's Angels reboot that happened in the early 2000s with like
Yeah.
Cameron Diaz and Drew Barrymore and Lucy Liu. And I actually saw that they like parodied that too in the movie, because they said like
Mm-hmm.
Drew Barrymore, Diaz, and
Yes.
to play the Pussycats.
Barrymore, Diaz, and Lou to play the Pussycats, and I'm like, what?
I know. I thought that was really clever. I know people would be like, "That's racist now."
Yeah, I'm like, wait, who's Lucy Liu gonna play?
So I actually think Lucy Liu is like one of my favorite actresses. So it's like,
Oh yeah, no doubt, she's a great actress. One of the earlier seasons of Elementary,
mm-hmm.
Lucy Liu she actually plays a very good Watson.
Yeah, I've seen the first couple.
Even though she's gender flipped,
mm-hmm.
but it's like you know what? This actually works in a way, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually like the show Elementary, especially when his brother comes in and his brother's watching him at a AA meeting, and he sees his brother there. He's like, "Excuse me, one moment." He takes his brother out. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Well, I wanted to come and see my brother." "You live in England." It's like, oh my, I just love that. I mean, there's just so much shows that were so great back then
Yeah.
that are, you just don't get the same quality nowadays, and it really is sad. And Josie and the Pussycats, like I said, folks, it took me 9 hours to watch the movie, but after I watched it today to stay fresh in the mind and whatnot, I was able to polish it off without pausing too many times. It took me only 2.5 hours. But this movie was not too bad. It was actually, it had the right stuff in a lot of different scenes. So getting to the rating, how would you rate this movie from 1 to 10?
From like 1 to 10, it's very easily a 5. I mean, like, like on a good day, it'd probably be a 6 for me.
Mhm.
I think I think a lot of like I said, a lot of the problems I think people had with it was that it was kind of like it was mismarketed, and like it kind of, when you mismarket something, you're kind of setting it up for failure because people have to go in with the right expectations. Like if I walk into a movie and it's like a rom-com, and then it's like, The Office actually has a really good line about this. Is like, this is the difference between 28 days and 28 days later.
Wow.
If you go in expecting the one and come out with the other, you're going to be really, really disappointed.
Yeah.
And I think, like a lot of my own personality is reflected in the film in some ways. I think I'm a very naive person of goodwill sometimes, but I'm not without my moments of villainy too.
Yeah.
And I like the absurdity. I like the color. I like the energy and the excitement. And like I said, I think I like the part that is kind of like the bad guy at the end does kind of get away. And even though the ones that you really kind of hate are the ones that are punished.
I know, right?
So I think that speaks to like a very clever villain in a lot of ways. And we don't have a lot of clever villains either. So
no, I don't.
We got kind of like, well, I mean, I've been talking about this with Society Reviews on his channel too, about how like we live in an age where you're not allowed to be a hero, and there aren't any heroes anyway, and the world's just not saving. So it's an interesting paradox when you think about it, considering how people are like, you wear a mask so you don't kill your grandma, but don't have any more kids because of climate change. So
yeah,
it's very surreal in a lot of ways to live in our own world. And I think this kind of acknowledges like there's some absurdity here and there, and it doesn't ask too much of you to suspend your disbelief. So
no,
but like I said, I think it's so the characters are all very unique and interesting. I'll read through my notes here. They're very tropey, but they have little twists and tweaks, make them fall completely into stereotypical characters. Like we were talking about Melody being like the dumb blonde, but she's actually quite observational at times, and she finds a way to kind of like turn her weaknesses into like
strength.
Good moments.
Yeah.
So and Melanie is the protective older sister kind of thing. That's good, but still like being jealous of your best friend. That's really, like, I have a lot of author friends, and I have a lot of friends that sell really good books and a lot of books, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, maybe I didn't sell any books today, maybe nobody else did either.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to feel like if you're not number one, you don't mean anything. So that's just the truth of it. So, but I will say the upside to it too. I wanted to make specific note of this. It's not a deconstructionist film, which is what you'd probably get today. No. It's taking something and kind of like bringing in other elements to it. So it's kind of like meta constructionist, but it's not actually deconstructionist. Nobody's made out to be a villain who's supposedly like a hero. They all have relatable flaws. They're all characterized uniquely, which is really hard to do, I think. And it's really hard to do that because we get a lot of repeated like tropes now, especially with women. I hate movies today that are just terrible because they're terrible women.
Yeah.
So yep. When I saw Captain Marvel, that was the first time I thought, oh my gosh, this is just cultural reparations because it cannot be this bad on purpose. So it's just that they probably planned it for some other character, and this is just they just made her a woman.
Yeah. As for me, for Josie and the Pussycats, objectively, I do 3 tiers: objective, subjective, and moviegoer. Yeah. Objectively, this movie is about a 5. Yeah. But it's actually more. It's more because there are flaws throughout this whole movie. But yeah. But the intention of the director was not to really cover flaws. Mm-hmm. However, this movie is not. It's not so much good as by any objective standard, but subjectively, I will put this movie at about an 8. Like I said, I got laughs out of it. If I can get laughs out of it, it's good. The only real points that I take off is because I had to pause to kind of reconstitute myself or recenter myself so I could get through it. And that's probably one of the weaknesses of it, definitely, is that it does blend a lot of genres. Yeah. But you're talking to somebody that writes in many genres, and I did the same thing. So I'm probably more forgiving of that than you are. Yeah. And moviegoer, where I don't deconstruct, it's strictly, is this movie entertaining or not? This movie is a 10 out of 10 when it comes to moviegoer, because you're going to get entertained. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. You're going to be like, what the fuck is going on? Pardon the French, but that is basically what you would be thinking. But this movie is also a reminder of how to do comedy in a way that can sometimes be offensive, but also not really offensive. Yeah. And everything's offensive today because they have no more there's a long list of reasons why people lost their spines. That's the point of it. But I think a lot of it did have to do with 9/11 for my generation, at least. It was like, oh, you can't say anything bad about these people, and it doesn't matter what these people are. Yeah, I know, right? And and that's just not. That shouldn't have to be true. So no, it really shouldn't. One of my earliest memories of bad jokes was, why isn't Jesus like M&Ms? And that's pretty, I mean, you could talk to people. I mean, I go to church a lot. Yeah. I love Jesus. I'll talk about Jesus all day long. But yeah, that's talking about why Jesus doesn't like M&Ms. That's not something that you'll hear most Christians approve of. So I'm not really much of I have heard a lot of Catholic jokes, believe me, I have. I'm still not this is a joke that is lost on me, really. But okay, well, Jesus can't hold the M&Ms in his hand. So that's why he doesn't like them. But right, now I get it. Got it. Okay. Okay, I got it now. Yeah, it's pretty tasteless when you think about it. Yeah. And not just because the M&Ms are falling out of your hand. Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, it's important to have a sense of humor, and I don't think a lot of people have sense of humor today. And even when it's Aaron Spears, I guess it's with Carson Daly. He's like, what are you saying? A brother can't be Carson Daly? All right. But not today. I'm Carson Daly.
Well, I like how Carson responds like, well, maybe, but like I'm actually Carson Daly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was actually one of the better.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, that is the perfect response.
Politics today.
I mean, anybody could be Carson Daly, but I'm actually Carson Daly.
Yeah. So, and like I said, yeah, this movie's very fun. It's like I said, it's very tightly written too. I mean, there are some instances where it goes off in a different direction a little too quickly, and it's not written as smoothly as it could be in some areas. And obviously there are plot holes. But it's very fun, and like I said, the overlaying satire adds to the universal themes of friendship, of like following your dreams and working to make your dreams come true, falling in love, believing in yourself and accepting yourself for who you are, and that no amount of like clothes that you buy or things that you change about yourself are going to make you happier than you decide to be for yourself. So yeah.
So give yourself a plug before we wrap this up.
Okay, well, if you're still listening,
we still got it.
And all of you are obviously still listening because I'm still here. But I'm C.S. Johnson. I am a speculative fiction novelist, and I write a lot of books, science fiction, fantasy, and fairy tales. I write a lot of different genres. The one behind me is like my superhero Christian YA fiction that I've gotten hate mail over. So go buy it, obviously. And I actually do have my own YouTube channel too, where you can listen to some of my books and hear me talk about stuff sometimes. Most of it's usually with good people like Orange Hat Man here. So.
Alrighty. And for those of you in the chat, Jack of all casuals, comic chat, thank you guys for turning up. Also, Fuch Norris and Society Reviews, always a pleasure. Thank you all for tuning in. If you guys want to be on a guest choice review, you get to pick the time, the date, and the movie. You just got to come onto my channel to talk about it. And thank you, Jack of all casuals, for sharing her.
Oh yes, thank you for sharing the link to my YouTube channel. I appreciate
it. This is her channel. Check it out. She does some good stuff.
Oh yeah.
And you catch her on also Society Reviews, like she said. He does we all shoot the shit on Fridays. Sometimes I'm there, sometimes I'm not.
I don't know if it's Fridays all the time now, but I'll be on.
It is gonna. Yeah, that's right. It is gonna go to Tuesday nights, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, it's moving to Tuesday nights, but it's gonna be happening in a few weeks or a couple weeks from now, I'm guessing.
Yeah, assuming that Society Reviews survives Las Vegas. So
yes, I'm pretty sure he will.
Well, I want tips then.
So. Yes.
Oh, hey, look, he's got a plug for you too.
Yeah. So thank you to everybody who has been in the chat. And I do not have any more streams for the next half a week because next week I have family coming in. So you won't see me streaming until like next Friday, where me and Darth Annihilus are going to be discussing on a guest choice review Predator 2. So thank you to all who tuned in. Hope to see you all on another stream or something. Thank you so much, C.S. Johnson CJ for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And very welcome. Everybody have a wonderful night, and always remember to stay humble.
Stay off drugs too.